Good afternoon. My name is Marina Yacoe. I'm an interdisciplinary PhD student, and I'm interested in resilience, or as I would call it, resilience in the making. Purpose of my research proposal and quest is to dive into a phenomenological approach to describe the essence of resilience that may help disaster responders and artists and theologians alike to better understand how to foster resilience in themselves and others within crisis, or what I'd call wilderness experiences. Is resilience found in the making? And I'm interested in a grounded theory, which would hopefully emerge a description and a essence of resilience. That's a film still from a film I made, which is about resilience. So I'm interested in pursuing a qualitative phenomenological study of the essence, like I said, of resilience in crisis. And that would ask, what is it, how, and why? My background is in disaster mental health, practical theology, and video art practice. That's what I do for my work. These are all pieces to a whole that I think they all conjure, require, and express resilience in the making. And I'm interested in this idea of, like, what do I have at hand to make, and what do I have or am compelled to make in a crisis? Another still from a film I've made. So interdisciplinary common ground appears in the experience of pursuing the emergence of the yet to be known, as Meek would explain. That's a philosopher I like. Here's a quote: "The artistic process is an act of responding to the real, reciprocating the real's welcome." It's this idea that as we pursue, we're also being apprehended. I took a history class and a Maine studies class with Dr. Saucier at Maine a few years ago, and he talked about these units of meeting that were gathered in his understanding of this wilderness experience of these young soldiers in the 1750s moving in through the great Maine wilderness. And it sort of paralleled to me the idea of dealing with crisis or having to conjure resilience. And he had these 4 points that he said he observed in their journals. They examined, they interacted with, they imposed order over, and then they found pleasure in. And that really sort of stuck with me. It resonated to this idea of stretching to a new point of reference, that we don't just sort of bounce back from trauma or a crisis, but we actually move through it to a new place, right? New point of reference. Gathering experiences is what I'd like to do, of this kind of sharing order made from disorder. I like the image of the the nails, on the rubber bands, because it sort of shows me this way of integrating all of these stretched experiences. And there's an image of the brain with the same idea. Just, it sort of resonates together. I'd like to sample 5 to 10 rural Maine adults who identify as having experienced resilience in the making in a crisis or wilderness experience, and how they connect with that. I love this image of a Marshall Island stick chart, because it really sort of gives me a visual, or hopefully you, of what I call Maine archipelago. The idea that in rural Maine, there are points of moments in time, and also between each other, that we connect through this resilience, through finding it and sharing it. This is actually, currents and atolls, which are little islands that are connected through discovery of what was yet to be known. And this is a visualization of it, away in the wilderness, found, represented, and disseminated. It's a great analogy and a beautiful image and a beautiful thing. There's another part of this which is interesting to me, which I think is part of it, right? Is that God, grit, and dirt. God is the mystery. People often say, why? Why did this happen? Or, oh God, they say, when we're seeking something. The irritant is the grit, and the dirt is the materials at hand. And I like that idea of themes to describe the understanding of resilience. That's what I'm trying to show you. Grounded asks research to develop an explanation of lived experience from emergent themes. And here's a quote from Fujimura, an artist and a theologian: "Pursue the creation of beauty as an integrated base for knowing the world and beyond." Well, especially in crisis, right? And with resilience. Polanyi, another philosopher that I'm interested in, he talks about subsidiary focal integration, sort of this awareness of this, the proximal and the distal, and then what we're actually focused on. And that applies with art, with research. Heidegger's hermeneutic cycle, that's what I'm interested in for phenomenology, phenomenological interpretation, the pieces to the whole, and kind of keep fleshing it out. That's the methodology I'm going to use. And then a grounded theory as an iterative design to discover and identify patterns that emerge from my interviews, right? God, Grit, and Dirt, the mystery, the irritant, and the raw material. I'm just putting it all together here, examining, interacting with, imposing order over, making last. I thought that's another aspect of resilience in the making. Wine and bread, right? Made to last. Things like that, or art, right? Finding pleasure in, distributing, sharing, pouring oneself out. These are all stages in art and also methods of a research project. Okay, this is an image that I created to explain a situation I was in as a disaster relief worker. A woman's home had been blown across this island, very small island, far, remote place. And it was this apprehension, what is going on? And I just put these images together because it sort of explains what I experienced through her. We walked through the rubble and she regathered, reordered bits of her life. It was really beautiful and powerful. Dynamic accumulators, like I just described, she did. Also, these people are doing, is expecting to find order and meaning, right? And the way Polanyi says, so doing that is an unspecifiable sense of an inexhaustible range of indeterminate future manifestations. And, looking for books in a bombed library, same idea, dynamic accumulating. Here's something I want to just add, the Kintsugi theology from Fujimura, a theology of suffering that recognizes the value in suffering or brokenness and being gathered, being put back together. This is a Christian theological idea, being broken, mended, filled, and emptied. And the Kintsugi specifically is something that's broken, a vessel to carry, and that's mended with gold. So it's actually more precious and unique and beautiful than it was previously. Ease in the uncertainty, it's this idea of finding that ease, that stretching through. The echo effect of art and faith is really interesting to me, and dynamic accumulators, which these images I'm thinking are expressing. Gold were these leaves put together, collecting potatoes. That's actually a Maine Studies postcard that I've kept. Dynamic accumulators gather data or meaning units to build themselves and themes towards communicating an essence of resilience. So the dandelion, sort of an obvious one, dynamic accumulator, and these film stills. Is the phenomenological research method also a wilderness experience that fosters resilience in the making? Is art's echo effect intrinsic in its ability to translate a hopeful ease in the uncertainty between the artist, the artwork, and the viewer, or the gatherer and the gathered, right? Therefore, communicating resilience through gathering, making, and sharing. Meek, in this book and others, describes Polanyi's subsidiary, right, the distal proximal integration, as analogous to seeing a snake in the leaves, right? It comes at you. Truth apprehends. And this is a film still from a film I made, a montage of stock footage, actually, of moving sunsets on horizons with various different horizons and water and landscapes. And there's just, for me, it's a processing of a relative's sundowny experiences, creating realities, sort of a reordering of disorder and hopefully making some beauty. And that is my presentation. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm in New York with a relative who needs me. And thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can email me. Thank you.